سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. To continue about the story of Aisha radiallahu anha and her life. So we talked about until her marriage, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam married Aisha radiallahu anha in Mecca 3 years prior to his hijrah to Medina, and she was then brought into the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's home as a bride in the second year of hijrah, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked by his father-in-law Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. He said, "Why don't you bring your family home?" That's what actually he said. Bring your family home. I mentioned this in a walima gathering that normally in our culture we refer to starting a family to, when we want to have kids. But in this tradition we have family, the wife and husband, and then the extension of that family are the kids. So هَلَّا جِئْتَ بِأَهْلِكَ, that's what Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said. And then she was brought. She was still a very young girl, according to the most authentic and the strongest opinion, that she was at the age of 9 when she was brought. She was playing outside, and the mother came and said, "Why don't you come in?" and brought her in. And the ladies of the Ansar, the women of Medina were very different in their traditions and their nature than the women of Mecca. The Meccan women, they were not very outspoken people, except for a few. If you are the wife of the leader or daughter of a leader, yet you are in somehow a leadership, then you will find those women are very vocal. But the nature of the women of Medina, that they were very outspoken and very vocal, and they will express and ask questions, and there was a great vibe in them. So they took Aisha, prepared her, clothed her prepared as a bride, and then she was brought to the house of the Prophet ﷺ, and they started their marital life. Now we learn a great deal of our tradition from just alone Aisha radiallahu anha. The ahadith and the way how she conveyed a lot of the learnings that she learned from the Prophet ﷺ. And I mentioned something in the beginning of starting with the history of Aisha, her biography, is that if you want to look at who are those who actually took this tradition and conveyed it and brought it to the next generation, are mostly the younger ones. Of course, the power of the younger people, it cannot go without the leadership of the older people. And that's why the khilafah, or the leadership, was always given to people of older age. People of older age were always consulted by the Prophet ﷺ. They were given preference over others. Also, it came with a lot of experience. Those Sahaba who were older in age and also had experience, meaning that they were from the early days of Islam, they were given preference over others. Right? So even those who accepted Islam later, time of Umar radiallahu anhu, he kept on telling them, "Can you just move back a little bit? So-and-so came in, he is more senior than you." And those who were like leaders back in the day, prior to them coming to Islam, they were pushed all the way to the back. And they kept on being pushed back until they got to the door. And they said that, "Well, we're going to have to do something. We're going to have to prove ourselves." And then later on, they proved themselves. So they didn't just sit back, "Okay, I'm not welcome there, I guess. I'm going to go leave and never come back." No. They proved it. So of course, our masajid should be open and welcoming. But of course, the leadership and in particular when it comes to consultation and running the community, are those people who have experience and are older in age. And of course, people of experience, of knowledge, are given preference. So Aisha radiallahu anha, if we look at what she taught the ummah, there's a big chunk of it that relates to family-oriented issues. Something that has to relate to home, family, wife and husband, children, anything that has to do with the home. Because if you look at the way how Aisha radiallahu anha, she spoke about her life and the Prophet ﷺ's life, a lot of it are certain things that normally wife and husband do not tell other people. You don't bring it out to the public, because home is a very private place. But the Prophet, he is a messenger of God and he's a teacher. And anything that he did or said, it was from God. And it was a prophetic way. How he dealt with certain things, how he slept, how he drank, how he spoke to his family, how he treated them, how at certain times he was serious and at certain times he was happy and he enjoyed life. He didn't sit there as a prophet and be served. He was a servant. And he would always display that, even to his wives. Some of the scholars say that the husband does not have to do all the chores of the house, and it has to be 50-50 by the wife and husband. The Prophet ﷺ did that because he was the best in every part of his life. If he was a husband, he was the best husband, and he said it actually. وَأَنَا خَيْرُكُمْ لِأَهْلِي, and I'm the best towards my family. Ahli again. And in every aspect, he was the best. So it was not a mandate or it's not an obligation upon him to do all of those things. The different duties of the family are distributed among different individuals, and that makes it easier. As we know that we talked about in the story of Fatima radiallahu anha, that she would take care of certain things, and because her mother-in-law was also Fatima, lived together with Ali, with her son, they distributed their work. And Ali took on certain job, the mother-in-law took on certain things, and the daughter, the wife, took on certain chores of the house, and that's how they distribute. So anyhow, the Prophet ﷺ showed us an example of what is the best method of doing things. That will be from the legal perspective, but from a moral perspective, you want to be there. Although you're tired, you came from work and you had a long day, a few things here and there, it wouldn't hurt to help out. As the Prophet ﷺ, Aisha radiallahu anha says that whenever he came home, he always was part of the family, and he would take different responsibilities. He would sew his own shoes and mend his own shoes and sew his own clothes. Meaning if his clothes ripped or a button broke, he would do it by himself. He wouldn't wait for his wife, okay. Or shoes broke, back then he had to do most of these things by yourself. It's not like the Chinese things that you just dispose it after it tears or breaks, you have to fix it. It's hard to get a shoes, they're expensive. So the Prophet ﷺ, he used to do those things at home. So we will go over a few hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, narrated by Aisha radiallahu anha, because she is one of the greatest and the beautiful examples of a loving wife to a loving husband. She said that I would prepare nabid for the Prophet ﷺ when he used to come in the evening. He used to drink this in the morning. So I would prepare the nabid. Nabid is dates, or you take grapes. Sometimes you use, not grapes, raisins, and you put in the water and you let it sit overnight, and in the morning you drink that water, and it's a very healthy drink. It's called nabid with a dal. So she used to prepare that for the Prophet ﷺ. And I used to prepare 3 covered bowls at night to prepare for the Prophet ﷺ. One for his making of wudu, one for his siwak, because the Prophet ﷺ used to love to use siwak, so he would take that siwak and put it in the bowl to keep it moist and wet, and one for drinking. So the night that the Prophet ﷺ used to come there, these are the things that she used to prepare for the Prophet ﷺ. Then another hadith that she would prepare his bedding whenever he came over. So these are the few things that she used to do on a regular basis whenever the Prophet ﷺ came. And there's an ajr, there's a reward for that. For the husband and for the wife. Whatever they contribute to the family, whatever they spend, for the man that spends every dirham, every dollar, and every cent, you are rewarded for that. You are given ajr for that. The wife, that contributions that she gives to the house, she cooks, or she puts the plates in the dishwasher, or just cleaning the sink. Everybody gets a portion of ajr. So that's how the Prophet ﷺ loved her a lot, and there's an interesting story that the Prophet ﷺ one time in a place called Zakka, the Prophet ﷺ came over there, and Aisha radiallahu anha, she had something, and the father said, give it to the Prophet ﷺ. At that time they were not together, they were only married, so they were wife and husband, but she was very little, and she just ran, and the Prophet ﷺ ran after her. He's a prophet, so older, but he knows how to deal with the child. So he ran and running, and Aisha radiallahu anha got away. On a trip, coming back from one of the ghazwas, Aisha radiallahu anha accompanied the Prophet ﷺ in that journey, and on the way back, the Prophet ﷺ said, do you want to race? Yeah, of course. And they ran. And when they raced, the Prophet ﷺ went ahead. Aisha radiallahu anha, later on, when she tells the story, she says that at that time, when we raced the first time, I was very light. I was little, and I didn't put on weight. But this time it was way later in her life, in the Prophet ﷺ's life as well. And she has now grown as an adult, and she has put on a little weight. So at this time, the Prophet ﷺ beat her. And the Prophet ﷺ said, Tilka bi tilka. Last time you beat me, this time I beat you. So even like small little moments that Aisha radiallahu anha kind of, you would see, inshallah. I'll try to cover more stories. I've collected a few of them, hopefully that we can cover some of them. But these are the small little moments that they cherished, and they enjoyed it, and they valued it. And later on, Aisha radiallahu anha will tell these stories to other people, to us, and that we know about it. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring the harmony and care and loving into our families. I think the greatest lesson that we can take from Aisha radiallahu anha's life is that how was she careful about the Prophet ﷺ, that she was even careful of having 3 different bowls of water for 3 different purposes. There was no tap. So she also kind of made sure that for the 3 different purposes, there are 3 separate bowls. And that was a lot, because they didn't have that much. Maybe that was the only 3 bowls that they had. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to also be caring and loving towards our spouses, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes us coolness to the eyes of one another. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give shifa to Brother Naeem, who's still in the hospital, I believe. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give him speedy recovery. As well as Sister Tiffany, she is not feeling well, she's in the hospital. And her mother's actually in a very critical situation. She may not survive. She is really in a difficult situation. She's suffering herself, and now her mother's also kind of leaving, and it's hard to deal with that. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make it easy for both of them. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give them shifa, give them afiyah in this world and the hereafter. May Allah make it easy for them and reward them for the difficulty that they are going through. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم كثيرا. جزاكم الله خير.